Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have Kaylin Creason. MLIS is a STEM librarian with McGraw-Hill. She joined McGraw-Hill after many years in academic and public libraries, where she developed a love of connecting people to the resources they need. Her favorite thing about her job is seeing people get excited about how they can use access engineering in their classrooms or research. Kaylin splits her time between St. Paul, Minnesota and Austin, Texas. So the need for this presentation is because we have many engineering students who are looking for information on a variety of topics, interdisciplinary topics, and Access Engineering provide access to a number of ebooks like Paris Chemical Engineering Handbooks and Mechanical Engineering Handbook, Building Codes, Illustrated Handbook, and so many other books. So that's why we invited Kaylin to give insights into access engineering and how our students and faculty can use it for their classes, for their assignments, for their projects. So welcome, Kaylin. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. If you can't see my screen or you can't hear me, feel free to chime up. But hopefully you're seeing Access Engineering and hearing me all right. As Jay said, my name is Kaylin Creason, and I'm a librarian with the customer success team here at McGraw-Hill. So basically, my job is to answer all of your questions about access engineering now or down the line as you use it. Today, I'll be taking you through a demo of access engineering and all of the teaching and learning content that it offers. The webinar is being recorded, so everyone who registered, I think, or like your librarians were saying, there's going to be a link posted somewhere for reference if you have to drop out or if you miss part, if you just entered the talk today. There will also be time for questions at the end, but please feel free to use the Q&A or chat box as we go if you have questions in real time. All right, with that, let me tell you a little more about Access Engineering. First things first, it is absolutely my favorite site to present on. Don't tell the McGraw-Hill medical team, but I just love Access Engineering, and I'm super excited to introduce your engineering students to it today because I think it can be really helpful as they continue their studies and work on their design projects. So Access Engineering is an award-winning engineering references and teaching platform that delivers world-renowned interdisciplinary engineering content integrated with analytical teaching and learning tools. It prepares students to solve real-world problems, makes curriculum planning and delivery easy for faculty, and helps thousands of our subscribing professionals find relevant information faster, driving increased return on investment. The beating heart of our content on the site is our 700 plus full text books. This is going to include textbooks, handbooks, Schwann's outlines, and engineering reference titles across all major engineering disciplines. Additionally, we have a wealth of supplementary material built out from and directly tied to these books, including 900 instructional videos, 7,800 interactive graphs, and thousands of downloadable tables tied to these books. We also have some interactive tools that I'll be going over a little later, including DataViz, which are our material properties explorer, some Excel-based calculation spreadsheets, and solution walkthroughs for step-by-step problem solving. So all of this content is available to you 24/7. There's no concurrency limits, so it doesn't top out. Any number of students can access the site at any one time. And you're never going to run into a paywall on Access Engineering. With your subscription, you have full access to everything you see. Another cool feature of Access Engineering is that every piece of content has a durable URL, meaning all you need to do is go to the top of the page, copy the URL, and paste it where you want it, and then users from your institution can access that content. So you can plop it into Drexel Connect or an email or anything else just really easily. So I'll dive more into that as we go. But the first thing I want to point out, especially if you're following along with me today, which I totally recommend you do, like Jay said when he was introducing me, my favorite thing is to just get people excited about the resources they have access to. So if you want to listen along, oh yeah,
Kellen, just one moment, please.
please, of course.
You can, as a Drexel student or faculty staff member, you can be able to access Access Engineering from our library homepage by going to library.drexel.edu. And within that, under databases by title, you will be able to see the link to Access Engineering. So I strongly encourage you to access through our libraries, because that is how you will be able to access. So click on databases A through Z.
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And under A, you will see a link to Access Engineering.
Excellent.
And then you sign in using your Drexel credentials, and then you follow along what Kaylin is going to show you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was perfect, because I was just going to point out at the top of the page here on Access Engineering, you should have a little icon that says Access Via, and yours should say Drexel. If it doesn't say anything, it means you haven't gone through this step of getting connected. Maybe you're off site and need to connect through your library page. If you're on site, you should be connected because we have Drexel's IP addresses registered. But yeah, it's always a great place to start at your library page, just to ensure that you're authenticated to your institution's subscription. But a really cool thing about Access Engineering is that the first time you connect, so if you just went through your library page and got connected to Access Engineering, what that's going to do is Access Engineering is going to put a cookie in your device browser. And so for 6 months on the same device and in the same browser, you're going to have seamless access to Access Engineering. So let's say you leave campus, but you have the same computer, same browser, or you go to a different university, whatever it ends up being, like you go study with a friend at a university nearby, you're still going to get access to Access Engineering without having to go through that library page for 6 months, just as long as you don't clear your cookies and cache. So that's just something we do to make life a little bit easier for you. And I like to point out with that you can use Access Engineering, from your dorm room, from your library, maybe you're on site doing some kind of construction site visit, or you have an internship. You can use Access Engineering from all of those places as well through that library connection or that seamless cookie access. Sticking to the top of the screen here, I want to point out an optional feature within Access Engineering, which is the ability to create an account. Creating an account is free, and it lets you personalize your experience on Access Engineering. So with an account, you can bookmark content, save searches, set up alerts, create projects in DataViz, and more. I think it's a really great way to ensure you're getting the most out of your Access Engineering experience. All right, enough with the top of the page. Let's get to the main event, which is the site content. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of different types of materials on Access Engineering. You can find all those material types in this black bar right here. We have over 700 multidisciplinary engineering titles available on the site, which includes 130 textbooks, 400 engineering reference titles, plus additional text on code commentary, professional and business skills, and more. We highlight the most popular 20 to 30 books right here in our book rotator. Some of these are probably familiar to you, such as Perry's Chemical Engineer's Handbook or Mark's Standard Handbook for Mechanical Engineers. And some might be new. We just added, it was just published, this How to Ace Statistics with Jeff Hansen textbook, which I believe is based on his popular YouTube channel. And then we have some other titles for you to discover as well. Rourke's Formulas for Stress and Strain. I know that's another great and popular title amongst both our university and engineering firm subscribers. Underneath that rotator, we have some conveniently curated collections. For example, the Schwam's Outlines collection includes 32 books that help students master essential STEM concepts so they can succeed in the classroom, on exams, and in their engineering career. Every Schwam's text includes example problems with step-by-step solution walkthroughs. so students can practice solving actual engineering problems at their own pace. Clicking into that just to show an example here. Like I said, we have 32 different Schwann's outlines. So this mathematical handbook of formulas and tables is just one example. And here are the example problems. I'll show you the solution walkthroughs back on the home page as we dive into our interactive tools. So here underneath my book rotator, we have those interactive tools. The first one I want to point out, and I'll get into even more detail a little later in the presentation, is DataViz. So DataViz is our data search and visualization tool for material properties. Designed by faculty, DataViz displays property data in interactive dot plots and scatter plots across a carefully curated data set of over 200 materials and 65 properties. In our videos collection, we have over 900 instruction videos that include step-by-step solutions to real-world engineering problems across every major discipline. Handwritten solves on the videos themselves give it a really classroom-like feel. And all videos, too, for accessibility, have closed captioning and full transcripts. For accessibility and for like, wait, what was that term? I find closed captioning to be helpful. Or maybe you're snacking on your chips and you just didn't quite catch it. All right, in our solution walkthroughs, we have comprehensive step-by-step explanations of engineering problems so that students at all levels can work through problems at their own pace. I am going to take us right now into the solution walkthroughs just because I think they're such a valuable tool for students. We have them available for many of our popular textbooks. I'm going to click into automatic control systems to show you an example. And these, if I didn't mention, are created by engineering faculty and actually tested by engineering students. So if I click into a problem, what I'm going to see is the problem from the textbook, as well as a problem objective, and then a step-by-step walkthrough of the problem. For each step, I have the option to try it on my own before I show the solution. So it's really great scaffolding for students who need it, whether they want to work through it quickly on their own or maybe just need a little extra help. My favorite feedback that we got about these ever from a student is that it kept the problem step simple, even though the problem is not simple. And I just think that sums up engineering pretty well. The wrap-up section of the solution walkthrough also offers up additional resources to test your knowledge and to keep practicing your new skills. Back to the home page, which you can always click Access Engineering right up here to get back to the home page. I'm going to continue through the rest of our interactive tools. Right here, we have our spreadsheets. These spreadsheets are Excel-based templates that streamline complex calculations to help you solve over 500 frequently used engineering equations. And we'll see an example of that from one of Drexel's most used spreadsheet calculators later in the presentation. Our graphs and tables collection makes it easy to analyze essential engineering data and confidently use it in real-world projects. The graphs and tables come directly from the books on the site, and so what we've done is we've taken the extra step to make them interactive. So if you had the textbook in front of you, you'd see the graph or the table, but when you're on Access Engineering, you can actually plot different data points or put in your own inputs and see a real life change in the result. So those can be found directly in the books and are also fully searchable on their own. Finally, in regards to our interactive tools, we have our case studies. Our growing collection of biomedical case studies provide examples for real-world problem solving and include problem sets, solutions, and an instructor's guide, all mapped to ABET objectives. We'll talk about this close to the end of the presentation as well. But before we do all that, what I want to show you, that was our material types from books to our interactive tools. But how do you get to what you actually want? I'm going to start from there and we'll go through the site that way. So let's show you how to browse and filter by topic. Above our material types on the home page, we also see that we have the option to browse by topic. So we have 4 topic-based taxonomies on the site that we've organized all of the content on our site to fit into. We've developed these with subject matter experts from across all engineering disciplines so that you can quickly and intuitively find exactly what you're looking for. Our most basic option is industry, and it's helpful for finding content related to a specific industry. 11 industries are listed, and you can select multiple. The results are also interdisciplinary. So for instance, you'd find the Marks Mechanical Engineering Handbook under aerospace and defense, manufacturing, and other industries that it fits within because it really is an interdisciplinary title. This allows students and practicing engineers to find what they need quickly and easily, eliminating guesswork. You don't have to guess whether we think Marks is more of a manufacturing title or an aerospace title. We know it's both. We've put it under both. Our course taxonomy is the second taxonomy on the site. And what this taxonomy is going to let you do is find content relevant to specific topics covered within common engineering courses. It can be helpful for students who are doing research tied to a course that they're currently in, or it can be helpful for faculty looking to build out a course or find resources tied to a specific section of a course or module. So that is our second taxonomy. And you'll notice in regards to our taxonomies that there are many options to drill down into even more specific areas of study and resource. Next, we have our codes and standards. And I know this is where my engineers get so excited, but we don't have the codes and standards themselves on the site. For that, I recommend using your institution's, I believe it's called Dragon Search. Maybe use Drexel Library's search for codes and standards, or make great use of maybe your interlibrary loan if you need a code and standard itself. But what this does is it maps all the commentary and discussions of the codes and standards that are found on the site and organizes them. So if you're looking for, how is this code applied? How have people discussed this standard? That's the content that's being mapped here by this taxonomy. I like to point out here that all of our taxonomies are searchable. So if there was a specific code you were trying to find, you can search for it, click, and then browse your selected results. Last but not least is subject. I saved this for last because it's our most robust taxonomy. From this taxonomy, you can drill down from 10 subject levels to over 6,000 terms. So the subject levels are going to be major engineering disciplines, and then the terms are listed alphabetically from there. The terms are polyhierarchical, so some terms can be found in multiple places if they apply to multiple disciplines and subjects, which of course many do. You can choose multiple terms from different subject levels to create your own custom browse. Like I said, it's our most robust area, so it comes with a lot of utility. And we're going to do an example of that right now. Oops, here we go. So I'm going to search, and I'm going to search for product design. And what you'll note is that I do see that in a few different spots. I see it listed under business skills, as well as underneath engineering management, because we know that people might search for it or browse for it differently, and we want to make it discoverable. So I will click into product design. And when I do that, we can see the results on the site that are mapped to product design. So here is everything on the site tagged to product design. The top tabs here are going to show a preview of my results by material type. And then on the left-hand side, you have the option to further filter your results. This should look a little familiar. These first three filters here are our topic taxonomies, our subject, our industry and courses. Down here is our codes and standards filter, as well as an equations filter. So if you're looking for a discussion of a particular equation or an example of that equation, you can filter to results that match the equation. Anything in blue means that there are results related to what you've already searched for. So in this case, there are 10 results. I see in parentheses here that little number tied to product design that also discuss this equation. And if it's grayed out, it means that there are no results within your current filters that match the equation. All right. You'll notice too, this little green tab here. The green tabs are going to tell you what kind of material you're looking at. So for instance, I see that most of these are chapters. And I can look for other material types by using my book-related filters right here. So as I mentioned, books make up the majority of the content on our site. And with our book-related filters, you can drill down by book type, title, component, and author. Title and author are going to be exactly what they sound like. You can filter to just a specific title or specific authors and see results that way. Book type and component need just a little bit of explanation. So I'm going to start with book component, and that's that little green icon. You're engineers, so I know you can do math. So you might be like, hey, Kaylin, you said there are 700 books on the site. Why do I get almost 1,800 results? Good question. That's because we're counting every book component under our books tab. So book components include chapters. They include those graphs and tables that we've built out from our books. They include, let me see what else they include. The solution walkthroughs, examples. What we've done and what you'll continue to see on Access Engineering is that we've tried to make every piece of content that we think is independently of value discoverable. So we don't want you to have to flip through the book to try to find solution walkthroughs or just click aimlessly. We have pulled out solution walkthroughs or pulled out graphs or pulled out chapters. They can be found within the full book as well, but they are also searchable. And that's why they're called book components. And that's how we get to that close to 1,800 number. So for instance, if I wanted to find a graph, I could apply my graphs filter. And now you'll see that little green icon has changed from chapter. I don't have chapters in my results anymore. I just have graphs. And I'll click into this graph to show you an example of the interactivity found in our graphs. So right here, it's actually taking me straight to the graph within the book. And so what I can do now is I have two options for plotting on my graph. I can either enter my own inputs, or I can click anywhere on the graph to see the values. So that's just a cool tool with a lot of the graphs on our site. I'm going to click the back button to return to my search results. This is a librarian nerd thing here, but what I love about Access Engineering is that you can click the back button and it takes you right to where you were. Even if I had been scrolled down on the page, it would have taken me right to where I scrolled down. So it's not going to, you'll note, reset any of your search filters or anything else. It really does take you right back to where you were. And I just think that makes navigation a little easier. All right. The other book filter I want to point out, you'll notice I just clicked the X to get rid of my graphs filter. That easy. Now I have everything related to product design again. And so the next and last book filter I want to point out is book type. So book type is going to enable you to filter to a specific type of book you're looking for. Maybe you do just want textbooks or you want exam prep. You can filter to those different book types and you will get results tied only to that type of book. We have cross-listed some books, and I'm actually at this point, oops, I don't have any titles. But if you wanted to find the full books and not just the chapters, you would click titles. Give me 1 second here. So I'm going to X out of handbook. I'm going to do book component. Oh, I don't have any titles related only to product design, but you'll note that was a more specific one. I know what I did. Okay. I'm going to get rid of my subject filter just to show you book component, titles, filtering to see all my titles here across the entire site. What I want to point out right now is in gray, this little gray icon is going to show you what type of book we're looking at. And for many of our titles, you'll see that they have multiple tags. So for instance, this is both a code commentary and a handbook. Just like some of our titles, you will see, I'm not seeing any as I scroll down right here, but here's a great example. This book is used both as a textbook and for exam prep. Many of our engineering reference titles and handbooks, we know people also use as textbooks, so we have cross-listed them. So you don't have to worry about selecting the wrong type, is what I'm getting at. If you select a textbook, you will get some titles that are also engineering reference. You don't have to worry too much about choosing the wrong type of title. All right, so that was browsing our site content. Now I'm going to talk about searching. Let's see here. I got a little out of order here, so just bear with me for a second. But right up here at the top of the page, we're always going to see this persistent search bar. And our search algorithm is going to use those topic taxonomies to help you find the most relevant results. And these are going to include not only matches on your exact search phrase, but also matches on synonyms, subterms, and near phrase matches. So it's a really smart search, but if you want more help creating an even smarter search, you can click this little question mark. So I'm going to type in design loads. And you'll note right here that I've chosen to search within my applied filters. I had a plan of having a filter here that I got rid of, but that's fine. What I really want to point out about the search is that you'll see I typed in design loads, but my smart search said, hey, I think you mean design load. And so it will show me results for both. I also get related search suggestions that appear. So I have the option to narrow my search or to broaden my search across the site. And that just really helps with discovering content related to what you're looking for. All right. Another thing you can do from the persistent search bar is start a totally new search. So up here at the top, I can change from within applied filters to searching across all of Access Engineering. No need to return to the home page to start a new search. So with this, I'm going to search for microcontrollers. You might be thinking why. That seems a little more specific maybe than design loads. But what I want to take you into is, and you know what? Let's do this search a little slower. You'll note we have type ahead suggestions. So as I started searching for microcontroller, it gave me a few recommended results, including these italicized results, which are books. And I want to click into this title, Programmable Microcontrollers, because it was the most popular title at Drexel in the past year. So finally, here's a good example of those gray icons. You'll note that this is both a textbook and an engineering reference title. So if you were looking for textbooks, you don't have to worry about the engineering reference titles being filtered out. They are included if they're also used as textbooks. When I click into a book, I get to the landing page, and here you find some key information about the title. We have author information at the top. We have information about this book edition. So this is the most recent edition of the text. It's telling me in bold, which I think is great. Other editions, older editions of text do appear on the site, but they are suppressed from the search, just so that you're always finding by default the most up-to-date content. Under here, you get a book description, you get some content tools. On the right-hand side, you get related searches, which makes it really easy to continue your research or exploration of content related to this topic, as well as recommended content. One cool thing to point out is that related searches and recommended content do change. They update as you dive into different chapters of the book. So we're always helping you find content that's related to exactly what you're looking at on your computer screen or your phone screen. The site is optimized for mobile. All right, another thing to point out is this resources tab. This will appear in different chapters of the book as well as on the book's main landing page. And the different resources are going to be maybe videos or figures from that chapter, as well as other resources tied to the overall text. So what we have here, these first 4 files are available to anybody. They are images from the book. They might also be, for some titles, they might be lab exercises or 3D printer files, different things like that allow for hands-on learning. And then there are resources for instructors as well that instructors can gain access to. All right, but here is the text itself. In the text itself, you'll see our table of contents stayed on the left-hand side of the page for easy navigation through the book. We also have a previous and next for like a book-like experience. If you want to read this like you would a book for an even more book-like experience, you can click into focus view and everything's just going to fall away so that you can really drill down into what you're doing. And then up here, we have some content tools. You can download a PDF of the chapter or the section you're in. Note that you can't download a PDF of the entire book. The trade-off of that is that we don't have a limit to how many people can access a book at one time. So there is that at least. Plus, we have all this great extra content to help you really discover as you're on Access Engineering more of what you're looking for. We also have auto-generated citations for books and chapters. You can share a link to the content that you're in. Remember, you can also use the durable URLs up here at the top of the page. If you're signed into your Access Engineering account, you can bookmark content and label those bookmarks with your own custom labels. And then finally, you can annotate content across the site. With annotation, what we've done is teamed up with Hypothesis, which is an open source annotation tool. So it's available for resources across the internet, but we've built it into our site as well. You do need to create an account to use Hypothesis, but it's easy and doesn't require a lot of information. With Hypothesis, you can easily highlight content just by highlighting it with your mouse. And the same is true of annotating content. Annotations can include links, text, images, bullet points, discussion questions. The great thing about Hypothesis is that it's a really collaborative tool. You can create different groups. It could be a group that's a project that you're working on with others. If you're a faculty member, it could be a different discussion groups you want for your course. And so it's a great way to read socially or take notes and to just work with other people who have access to Access Engineering, which of course at Drexel is going to be everybody. We have a video on how to get the most of Hypothesis on our administration page, and I will show you that at the end of the presentation today. All right, just a couple more things before we wrap up here. I want to show you our Excel-based spreadsheet calculators. These are one of my favorite pieces of content on the site. I love Excel, and I love when Excel makes my life easier. So I will show you a little more slowly how I got to those. If I go, I have a few different options for getting to them. I always go down here to the view spreadsheets, but this materials bar is fairly persistent across the site, and I can click into spreadsheets to get to my spreadsheets that way as well. So as I mentioned, our Excel-based spreadsheets automate the calculation of complex and commonly used engineering equations to help you complete projects faster. And who as a student or a practicing engineer doesn't want to get their work done just a little bit faster? So we're going to look at this spreadsheet, which was used by Drexel students and faculty in the past year a few times, the analysis of AC and DC circuits. So when I click into the spreadsheet, I see some author information. I see my great content tools again for easy citation. You can also download citations to your reference manager. I see when the spreadsheet was created. And down here, if I'm signed into my AccessEngineering account, I can sign up to get notified if changes are ever made to the spreadsheet. Different spreadsheets have different objectives. So for this one, this workbook is going to automate the calculation of over 70 basic electronics formulas. And what that helps people do is it helps to solve an immediate design problem or calculate the value of a specific circuit element. So I can see that description right here, and then I can download my spreadsheet. For many of these, you have the option between metric or imperial units. Open my spreadsheet. Give me just a second to change the view of my screen. You should be able to see the spreadsheet now. Let me know if you can't. But I've opened up my workbook. And in orange here, I see an overview of the workbook contents. And in each tab in orange, I'm also going to see references and definitions for the content or the source material that forms the basis of the workbook. And any link in blue is going to be linking to content on AccessEngineering. So again, that's going to be stuff you have complete access to. So if you're confused, you run into trouble at any point, follow the yellow brick road, follow these resources, and everything you need is right in here. Speaking of everything you need, I love how simple these spreadsheets are. Orange is going to be your output. Yellow is going to be your input. So let's say I change my voltage. I'm going to make up a number. All right. Sometimes I don't get an output when I make up a number, but I did. You'll notice that when I inputted a new value, my output changed. And better yet, when I click into the orange, when I click into the output, up here at the top, I can see the Excel formula being used. So we aim for total transparency in our workbooks so that you really can learn from the calculations being done, but also they're just a little easier for you. Another great thing, this output, this orange box, not editable. So if you drop your coffee on your keyboard, something that has never ever happened to me, you won't screw up the formula at all. That gives me peace of mind. I was a student once working at 2 in the morning trying to get things done, and I just find it helpful to know that you can't screw up those complex calculations. Going back to AccessEngineering, I want to show you 2 more tools. On our homepage, I can navigate to our case studies. The case studies present real-world examples of engineering applications, along with questions and problems tied to different learning objectives. All of the case studies right now, it is a growing collection, but everything right now is going to be tied to biomedical engineering design projects. So if I click into this first case study of atrial fibrillation, can't say that word. In each case, what you're going to get is an outline of the real world scenario, and then you're going to be guided through various technical, design, economic, and ethical considerations. There's also questions for discussion at the end, as well as some real world resources. This could be example letters to community members or stakeholders, things like that. Cases are fully downloadable, and those additional resources can be found here as well. You can also see questions with solutions, and that's available to anybody to further your learning. Once again, related content is listed on the right-hand side of the screen. The last thing I want to get into today is data viz. Data viz, one more time, is our AccessEngineering's data search and visualization tool for material properties. We do have a really great video tutorial on data viz, as well as pre-made projects that I'll show you. And those two things can help you really get a better understanding of how to best utilize this tool. I'm going to click into Take Me to Data Viz. And here I see I have a few different options. The simplest option is to find a property value for a material. So I can look up my material and enter in a property value. And then I'm given the property value for that material. And I can easily change my unit of measurement as needed. Next, getting a little more complicated, I can compare that property value across all materials. So here I have a one property dot plot of fatigue strength. I can filter by material type on the left-hand side. You'll note that material types correspond to a different color. But if color isn't something that vibes with how your eyes work, we also have it listed down in this table what that material type is as well. So all the data that appears on this view, on this visualize tool, also appears in a table at the bottom of the screen. So I can change the material types, and I can change the acceptable range. You'll note that when I change the range, things that are no longer in range get grayed out, or on the table, they get marked as being out of range. You can make proper materials a little easier to see by starring them, and then they get a little star on the table as well. Speaking of easier to see, you can also zoom in, which I like because I currently have my computer set to 120% size. So definitely like the option to zoom in. You can then add a visualization if you want. Right now we're in a one property dot plot, but we can change to two properties. I like to add cost because I think that's something that is often applicable as we talk about design. So maybe I want fatigue strength and cost. And then I'm seeing my two property scatter plot of how those two properties compare against each other for different materials. If I'm working on a project, either by myself or with a group, I do have the option to save a project, to save my visualization. And then I can share that with other people by copying this URL. I can also export my tabular data if I so desire. All right, and the last thing with data viz that I want to show you is I'm clicking back into data viz here. And right here we have our data viz project library. So this is going to include 28 projects that our engineering faculty have created with questions and related reading. So let's say I want to open this case study of aerospace applications and their properties. I will see some release notes about this project. And then I see the different visualizations included in this project, as well as some discussion questions that we've built into this data viz project. So that's something for students for, if you want to use that for your own study, you're welcome to. If you want to use it to kind of show you an example of how to get the best out of data viz, you can do that. And then faculty, you can save these projects and edit them and then assign them to students as well. So these can be used as a template for creating your own projects or discussions in data viz. All right, last but not least, I want to show you our administration page on Access Engineering, specifically our user manuals and tutorials. So I just clicked on administration up here. And then here are our user manuals and tutorials. Here you can find videos that provide step-by-step instructions on how to use Access Engineering's personalized research tools so you can find the resources you need and get back to the work or studying that you're doing. We have our data viz tutorial. We have a brief overview of searching and filtering. I know I gave kind of a long one. We have a discussion of hypothesis and how you might be able to use that for collaboration or study and more. All right, if you have any questions, we also have a link somewhere on here on how to contact my team, but I'll be sure to give that out as well. We are at customersuccess@mheducation.com. All right. Are there any questions at this point about Access Engineering?
Helen, I have a question.
Of course.
Now, many times our students are working on a group project, like 4 or 5 students on an engineering design project. And suppose one of the students come across a book or a certain part of the book that he or she wants other team members to look at it. So is there any way that can be shared among the teams, or how does it work?
Of course, that's a great question. So the easiest way, let's say I'm in this chapter of construction planning. I just picked a random book on the site. Although, maybe I won't pick a random book. Maybe I'll search for design because we do have some project design texts that I think are really excellent. So if I go into design, maybe I want to go into structural design.
Okay.
What I can do, I have a few options for sharing content with my collaborators. The first thing I could do, if I'm in a specific chapter, maybe what I could do is share that entire chapter with my team with a little note. I could send them an email. And so you could click share right here and then copy this link. Click and it's copied, and you could send that in an email or an instant message to your team members. You could also copy this link up here and send it to your team members, and that's going to take them directly to this chapter and section of the text.
Should they use link or should they use proxy link?
They should use, I believe they should use, okay, give me 1 second here. I believe for the most part, they can use link because of how Drexel is set up with us. But it's always a good thing to use proxy link. Honestly, I would default to using the URL at the top of the screen just because I think that makes life a little easier. It's a little smarter of a link sometimes. But for the most part, if they're working in a project together, they can use link, but proxy link is good too. Honestly, if you're working on campus, it can kind of all be the same is my understanding. But they're going to be connected to the institution network for the most part. So I would use link.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But another option, one more option for them is that they could create a group in Hypothesis. So you can create a private group.
Oh, good.
And then if you do that, you can add whoever you want to it. They can leave the group at any time. Sometimes group plans change, but you can easily invite new members using Hypothesis. And then what you can do is maybe you want to say like, oh, this section right here, like this is really good to know. You can post that to your different groups. So I can post that to my study group with a note and say like, what do you think? Or anything like that. And then we can have a discussion about this specific part of the text right on Access Engineering.
Yeah, this is a perfect example because I wanted to highlight this also. In this particular screenshot, I see that the ASTM designations like ASTM standards, and through our libraries, we do have access to ASTM standards. So they can go back to the library homepage and click on ASTM Digital Library, and they're able to access what A529 is, for example, and get more understanding about the standards.
Great. Oh, that's a great use of all your library resources. Yes, that's awesome. So, and with hypothesis too, that brings up a great point. What you could do is find more information. Let's say you're not on Access Engineering, but you find something that the library has access to that you want your team to know about. You could post a link to that in your hypothesis notes and say, hey, when I was reading about this on, on wherever else, I found this link, you should check this out. So you can kind of cross-link across different sites using hypothesis.
That's great. Now, can you show me one more time where they can create groups? I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't see.
Of course, I went through it really fast. So there's two ways to open hypothesis. One is to create a new annotation or highlight, but the other is just that hypothesis is going to hide really subtle over here. So I can click this little sidebar. I know they've made it really discreet, which is good and bad.
And then you create a group there. I see.
Yep,
Okay.
you create a new private group. You have an invite link. So you don't even have to know who's going to be in your group from the beginning. Right. You can always add new members, can edit, and then going back to the site, you just change which group you're in from the top right here.
Okay, they're so tiny little things that they
tiny.
need to
It's really
see.
tiny. To be honest, I forget about it sometimes because it's so hidden. And it's the same color as the site.
Okay, that's perfect. And one more thing, I know you showed us some case studies like biomedical engineering. There were 9 case studies. Are there going to be more case studies, or there's just the 9? There's going to be only 9.
There's going to be more. Yes, I actually had a faculty member reach out to me today about adding a case study he wanted to create for us. So right now, I mean, we just launched these very recently, which is why there are only 9. But we are growing this collection. We're really excited to grow this collection. As you saw, there's a lot of good content in each case study. So they are a really robust resource. And so we will continue to update. And I believe, let me see here if I can figure this out. Another option you have on Access Engineering is to save a search. So I could save a search for case studies and I could get notified when new items match this search. So I could get notified when new case studies get added to the site if I'm interested. Yeah, we're really excited about them though. So we'll probably shout it from the rooftops when new case studies are added. So you might not have to create your own search. We'll probably let you know.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm asking
Don't
a lot of questions.
apologize. I'm a librarian. It's what I live for.
Now, you showed us while you were showing us material property data, you showed us a graph or something. Now, is it possible to export that particular property table or a graph into a PowerPoint slide and have a citation integrated with it?
What a great question. It's like you're my plant in the audience, and like I couldn't have asked for you to ask me that question any better. Okay, so you have a few options when it comes to your graphs and tables. So give me a second here. I just have to remember how to get to it. So one thing about the resources in any text is that for most texts, we will have instructors. This one's just a solution manual. Give me one moment here. Let's go into this waste and wastewater engineering text. for instance. So if I click into resources, one of the resources available to my instructors at least, and I'll start with instructors, but then, oh, actually this one's available to anybody. So we've created PowerPoint slides that include all of the images from a text, and it's actually going to be chapter by chapter, the images. So this one is taking quite a moment to open, but it'll get there. So that's one option for getting a PowerPoint with a citation, is to download any PowerPoint files attached to the text. But another option, if I just click into a random chapter, let me see, and click into a section. So up here, I have my figures and tables pulled out. And I can open them in a new tab. And then I don't see the citation on all of these. So maybe we don't have the citation that auto downloads, but if I view it in context, I get a citation here. Let's see, what was that? That was just a citation for the chapter. You know, so that might not be a feature we have built in quite yet. We only might have them like pre-created as these PowerPoint files.
Okay. Something for you to think about for future.
For sure. I really would like us to think about it. The only reason it took me a minute to answer that question is that I demo for our medical products as well. And we do have that feature for our medical products. So I would really like to have it for our engineering products. Oh gosh. So here are some PowerPoint slides for the wastewater. These are a bright blue.
Pictures, images, wow.
Pictures and images. So what I'm going to do, Jay, is find out more about getting citations for the images, just to see, it's possible that I'm wrong and that those exist somewhere that I have forgotten. So if I find out something different than what I told you, I'll be sure to pass it along.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kaylin, for a wonderful presentation.